there's so many interesting things going on about France. I mean, for people who think, if you're mistakenly thinking that this is something that has just happened now, it's something that's been brewing. It's always that. It's a situation that's brewing for a long, long time. There's been long running discontent. I'm thinking back 20, 25 years in the suburbs of many French cities, especially amongst young men of African or African origin, who have long been angry at discrimination and what they claim is racism by the police. Not unlike with what was happening in London with stop and search, what is happening still hasn't gone completely away. This latest shooting of a young man, let's give him his name, Nahel Merzouk. His funeral is today, 17 years of age. And apparently there are reports, we don't know, that the police officer pulling him over in the car said, "I'm going to put a bullet in your head," and indeed did. But whatever's happened, it's turned into riots that have spread not just in Paris, but other cities, Marseille, even in French territories overseas. Macron has become under fire from the right wing of politicians to do something more drastic. And there's an interesting development, because what you might not know, and what we'll be talking about later on in the program, is there's a really important conference with world leaders going on at the same time in Paris. All of this has come together. Joining me now is Florence Biedermann, who's a former AFP news editor and is based in France. Florence, the pictures that we're seeing on screen, as I said before, this isn't out of nowhere, is it? This simmering malcontent has been going on, I'm just trying to think, 25 years, even more.
Yeah, I mean, you're perfectly right, Trisha. I mean, last time there was such riots in France was in 2005, if you compare with now. And I mean, the reasons were exactly the same. A policeman had two young people, they were like 15 and 17, and been chased by the police. And they took refuge in an insecure electricity station, and they died. So their death started the riots that lasted for weeks. So you are now more than 20 years later, and it's still the same. The same pattern. A young guy who is 17 years old have been arrested by the police while he was driving a car. They told him not to start the car again, which he did, and then the policeman shot and killed the youngster. It's easy to affirm what happened exactly, because there was a video on it and it circulated on social media. So this time, the police couldn't say, well, we were in danger, our life was in danger. It was clear to everybody that their life was not in danger. And this is a standing problem also with the French police. Like they are very quick to use their weapons. Already last year, there were 13 people in France killed during such incidents. So there is a real issue there. But the bigger issue, as you said, is like the social problem in the suburbs of the big cities in France. They
haven't really tackled it, have it? They kind of each time, even around 2005. I mean, I had a house in France for 10 years, and it comes up every so often. Nice is another hotspot. Marseille, Nice, and the far right often uses that population for votes. And the left speak about it for just a short time, and then it's kind of buried until something like this happens again.
Yeah, I mean, you cannot say that nothing has been done, Politicians, of course, see there is a problem. Let's say the vote in these suburbs seems to be rather going to the left than to the extreme right, to be honest. As you remember, you said yourself, those people are, most of them, the majority of them of Black African or North African origin. So they are of migrant origin, even if they have been settled, since 3 generations. So they will rather tend to, let's say, vote on the left than on the extreme right. But they are impoverished, they feel marginalized, they feel they are unfairly treated. But still, I mean, governments regularly try to do something. I mean, you cannot say that nothing has been done.
Well,
of
no,
course,
I was thinking of the hijab ban.
Not enough. Obviously, not enough. And still recently, Emmanuel Macron, the French president, ordered former minister for the city to write a report what should be done for the suburb. I mean, he gave his report back and he said you have to invest lots of money. And the report was shelved. So that's what happened recently. So yes, you have this feeling things are done, never enough. You should need massive investments. And this is not what's happening right now.
And I was going to say that the hijab ban and the whole discussion around the hijab ban as well would make people feel even more attacked or marginalized.
There was no mention of any religious aspect in the recent riot. So
No. But I'm just thinking for a marginalized community feeling attacked from stop and search and the police, and then feeling, for the Black Muslim area, these things build up.
Again, I wouldn't say there is anything linked to hijab in this riot. No, and this is not about religion. This is about racism. I mean, there are. You wouldn't say that the French police is systematically racist, but there is racism in the police. So, I mean, there are issues, but they are more social and economical than religious in this circumstance.
So what is Macron being pressured to do? I mean, what does he do about this?
Well, he does what he can do, which means ask the parents of the youngsters to keep them at home. He was very quick in condemning what happened. He said the fact that a young teenager was killed was unforgivable, which is quite strong. It's the first time a French president reacts so quickly to that kind of incident. In 2005, for example, it took some time, and the president and the Home Affairs Ministry at the time were defending the police. So this time, the policeman has been immediately arrested and remanded in custody, and he's under formal investigation for voluntary murder. So, this is a difference with previous times. What Macron is also doing is like sending lots and lots of police, and there were more than 40,000 police deployed yesterday evening. But yes, there will be always people, especially on the right, and the right traditional conservative opposition, ask him to install the state of emergency. So far, Macron has refused. Because, it would be like imposed in all of France. And of course, I mean, the current law is not applying. So it's something very strong. I think Macron will try not to resort to it because it's a bit extreme. But after a while, it's only 4 nights. And the violence is not diminishing. I mean, maybe
and
it was a little less.
It's spreading. They're saying
that's it.
I was going to say Kylian Mbappe, the footballer, they've got involved as well, saying they understand people's frustrations, but not to be violent. So, I mean, and of course, the French football team is a real beacon of hope to this particular area, to these particular youth. But so far, I mean, there hasn't been, social media. You mentioned social media. These days, the message, the video goes viral and it's spreading.
Yeah, it's certainly also a major difference with the previous riots, it allows people to organize themselves. They can quickly, convene in one place and go quickly to another one. And I mean, which makes it easier, for example, for looting, etc. Yeah, you're very right to mention Kylian Mbappe. He's really kind of a role model for all these youngsters. The fact is that his first reaction was very strong, like to say, my God, it cannot happen, it's not possible. So I think that's why you can even suspect he was asked to have a second reaction now, to try to, let's say, to appease things and to calm the situation. And that's what he has been doing, taking responsibility. But the first reaction, like the one of another very famous French actor, Omar Sy, who was in this very famous, successful movie, Intouchable. So he also reacted very strongly. And I guess this also contributed to the fact that the youngster could feel themselves justified, to go and revolt. I mean, but again, revolting and rampaging and looting are two very different things. So
yeah, it spreads. It spreads and spreads and spreads. And I was interested to see that it's not just in Paris; it's spread to other cities as well.
Oh, absolutely. But from the first day, that was also very remarkable. From the first day, it was in several big cities, north, south, east, west, in all of France. And now it's in more and more cities. So since also the police is concentrating in Paris and the area, last night it was especially bad in Lyon, which is like Lyon and Marseille are the second and third biggest city. So in the third and biggest city, it was much more violent than the previous night. So, it's unpredictable what's going to happen tomorrow night, for example. Yes, you can safely assume the violence will go on, but where, when, that's something that we will see in the coming hours, unfortunately.
Florence, one of the things that is very, I had to Google it. I didn't realize that was going on is the Free Iran Summit is on at the moment in Paris with all sorts of heads of state are meant to be there. Liz Truss, all of these people at the same time. So security would be wrapped up. I mean, you sort of think, for the French, for Macron, it's doubly, embarrassing. But, I mean, the Free Iran, I didn't even know that it was going on. It seems to be very, very quiet. This is every year they get together to condemn the Iranian government and what have you. And that's happening in Paris. What happened in the main one was yesterday, but we're still waiting on news updates to what came out of that whole meeting.
I think you're not the only one who didn't know this. It was happening, Trisha. I mean, as for maintaining order, several big concerts, for example, have been cancelled. I mean, the government is trying, to focus on these riots right now, and I mean, the rest is really. I would say under the carpet. I mean, who cares now about Iran? This is not the main problem in France right now.
Exactly, but and I a bit later on in the program, I want to look about who's there because there's some pretty big names over there at the moment. But coming back to, as you say, the rock concerts are being cancelled and what have you. Paris in summer always seems to. I mean, when you say it gets hot in Paris, the heat of emotions and the actual heat in Paris. I mean, many Parisians with money leave the city, but it's always that volatile time. If anything's going to happen, it tends to be the summer in Paris, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Also, it's the beginning of school holidays. Among the protesters, I mean, what is remarkable also, they are much younger than in 2005. Lots of them are between 13 and 18 years old, Among the people arrested, they arrested quite a lot of people, and more than 1,000 last night. Oof. There were over 200 who were underage, So the beginning of school holidays, okay, you cannot say it's the reason of the riots. It's not the main reason why the violence will go on, but it adds, it facilitated somehow, all these young guys who are, maybe who don't have enough money, to go on holiday, who have to stay where they live anyway, the accumulation of all these factors certainly adds to the volatility of the situation.
Florence, thank you so much for that insight. Je vous en prie, merci. That Florence Biedermann, who's former AFP news editor in France, giving us the update on what's going on there. And as I mentioned there, that did you even know about the Free Iran? It's a massive conference with some really international political heavy hitters. Want to have a look at what that's all about and what's going on, because as Florence said there, everything else has tended to be swept under the carpet.